was 7 on the office, and I put the ribbon in. Right. Okay, all of a sudden, it's, what the hell is this ribbon? How do you use it? And there's no manual to show you, so it's like, okay, go buy that book, and they make more money. I think they do that on purpose.
Okay, well, let's get started. I got an early start today. I'm still 5 minutes late, but that's just the way it is. Just so everybody knows,
Recording?
Giants are winning. No, it's probably a good idea. Huh?
Who's winning today?
Here's a good question. You can tell what my priorities are. Okay.
You got the recording going?
Yeah, I do have the recording going. I hit the start the record. So I think everybody's set for the tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about object-oriented programming. No more assignments in it or anything. I just wanted to give you another example of it, mostly because it is such a different way to think about programming. And here's another example. It was actually done by Jeff. Anyway, we'll do that in a second. But are there any questions that people have about the assignment or object-oriented programming right now? If not, I'll just show you a couple things. So, hearing none, I'll barge ahead. Here's Jeff's site. I mean, it's typical site. You can log in, like much of your guys' sites. Enter a password, and you can get in and look at things. Okay, so you've seen stuff like this, and you can log back out, and now you can't get back in. If I go back to that screen, or try to go back to that screen, it just doesn't work. I can't get back to it. So the security's all working, everything's good. That's not really the part I wanted to show you. That's really how he handled a certain aspect of the handling fields. So I gave you kind of somewhat of a macro example where the object was the person. So it was, and then everything that had to do with the person kind of happened inside the object. That was nice. It fit with Dean's example that I plugged it into, or that I modified it from, but it wasn't very granular. So, but Jeff was doing something that worked better for individual fields, and so he can do individual editing and do individual error messages if he needs to, and doing a person class doesn't fit in that. So he made a base class called input field, and it has two functions. It has 3 values, or 3 properties, all public, so you can get to them, and 2 methods. I think I figured out most of this, Jeff, except for there's one syntax I went around me, and I'll ask you how that works. But so this is pretty. I mean, when you look at it, it's pretty straightforward, and it's supposed to be. That's the whole idea, is that it's simple and easy to understand. So he's got 3 values here. There's value. This is what the field is going to have in it. There's basically a Boolean that says, well, is this one valid or not? So somehow this gets set. We can look at that in a minute. And then there's error class. That's used down here. So he's got 2 methods. One of them is called check it's valid. So he calls a function. So just because you're in a class doesn't mean you can't have functions that are just like any other functions. So this is calling a function that's not part of the class. If we just look for it, Maybe it's better if I just scroll down. So a bunch of classes here. So here starts his function. So he just has some functions in the same file that he includes, and so you can have that. Doesn't mean that, especially in PHP, doesn't mean you can't have functions that you can call. So he does. He just, and it's an isValid function, and he sets this variable when this method checkIfValid is called. Then there's a read value. Well, what is read value going to do? It's going to look at the superglobal post. The field name is actually passed into this method, so it's general. I'm going to get the value out of the post. I'm going to do a trim on it when I do it. He'll do his real escape string checking. And notice where he got the database connect. Remember, there was a couple different ways to handle globals. So you could declare them as global at the top of the method, or you could access this variable called global. So what this is telling me is DBC is a variable that's outside of this class, that's a global from whatever class is calling this. So he accesses it. But you need to have the database connection to be able to call this, so he gets it out. He declared it global and basically grabs it that way. He calls checkIfValid after he's done all of the trim. We had this discussion last week, and this escaping whether we ought to check if it's valid before or after. I was checking before, and really it probably ought to be done after. So he's checking after, and he sets in the error class. So this is part of the syntax I didn't understand.
Because isValid is another object.
Well, isValid is another object?
Which has, if you go to the functions class, or functions file, it's another class, and it has several members. So when I check for validity, I can set whether it's valid. If it's not valid, I set a message on why it's not valid. I can set the original value, and there's several fields in it.
Okay.
So it's just an object that I pass around. One of the fields is of the same name, so it's a little confusing when you see is valid. So
Jeff explained what this is. This is the thing I didn't understand what was going on. And so basically what he's put in this variable name is the name of a class. An instance of a class that's called isValid that has methods in it. One of the methods on that class is isValid. So that gets pretty tricky. So, I can complain about that just because it's a little too tricky. I have a guy I work with, Steve, that is a really good programmer, but sometimes he's too good for me because I just can't understand. It's very elegant, or it's sophisticated the way he might do something, and it has a reason. He has a very good reason why he does it that way, and it gets the job done. But sometimes it's so sophisticated that I get lost in what he's trying to do. I think now that I understand this, I could follow this, but I was having a rough time figuring it out on my own. Now, the real part I wanted to get to is this is a base class, and he inherits this for the individual field. So each individual field will extend the input field base class. So he's got login field here and password field, and here's one called change password field. Now, notice he's added and sometimes overridden overridden the base class method. Let's just look at this one, change password field. It says, okay, he's got to check if valid. Well, the base class, or the parent, has to check if valid too, as well. So he's overridden it, and he checks something, a variable, to see which one he should call, either the base class version or if he's going to create an isValid object. So that's a way of...
And that's what it's returning as an instance of isValid response.
Okay. So it returns that, puts it in this guy. Let's see an example of use of one of the more easier fields, like maybe first name. So here is a PHP file that he's going to use this class in. So I just wanted to show the use of it. So there's the include of the file with the classes in it. And here's where at the beginning he initializes some variables, says initial values, does his includes, and at the very beginning he creates an instance of the field class for each of the fields that he has. So here's an example of first name field. He's created at the beginning. Let's search down for his first use of it. Okay, so here he's going to set it to the old value. Looks like this is, without getting into the details of the logic of this exact form or this exact file, it just kind of looks like he's setting it to the old first name value here. So he's accessing that public property in first name and setting it from the outside. Here's a case where he's highlighted the wrong thing. So here's another case where he's checking whether it is valid or not. With that, again, that funny syntax that I left on understanding. So I guess I've got what I wanted to say out of this. This is kind of another approach to the problem. I want to have a class for each of my fields, and I can put verification for each field. I can put standard verification in a base class, things like is it empty and that kind of code, and but I can override checking if things are valid with very specific checking for the specific field as I inherit it for, like first name or last name. Or we're going to later get more sophisticated about editing like a phone number, or you might want to check a phone number with more than is it blank or not. You may want to check that it has 10 digits in parentheses or however you're formatting a phone number. You can do that by inheriting each of those fields. Yeah,
the extra equal sign in those tests, what's the syntax there?
I don't know.
And above there's a not equal.
The triple equal and the double not equal are for exact equality. And without that, if it's a double equal or a not equal, it'll do type conversion.
Okay, so if I understand that, what Jeff just said, for those of you online, the triple equal is for exact equality, or the not double equal is for exact not equality.
So in other words, it has to be not only the same value but the same type. Exactly. Three. Right.
So in PHP, if you had a string 3 and a numeric 3, they would be with a double equal.
But not anything else but value equal.
It would coerce the types and say, yeah, they're equal. And usually a lot of times that's what you want. And it's kind of nice in PHP, you don't have to think about all that. But if you want them to be exactly equal, including the type, so in this, when you do password field edit equal true, why did you use triple equal there? Or did you have to?
Edit's a checkbox.
Okay.
So if you go to the Manage page,
Yeah.
you can update the fields of a person without affecting their password if you don't click the Edit field next to the password.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'd be resetting the password
all the time. And you needed to use triple edit because you wanted to be exact.
Sorry, edit is because
it's a checkbox. Okay.
And then it's either true or false. So
probably double equals would have worked.
it would have worked. Yeah.
Okay. Just being more explicit there.
Yeah, I've run into problems. I also do JavaScript, and I ran into problems with type conversion in JavaScript.
In JavaScript.
So
just making sure that,
yeah.
It's being very explicit. Okay, good. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover on that. Let's go back here. So if there's no other questions, we'll get into searching and sorting, and implodes and explodes, and things like that. So I'm hoping that this week is easy. Okay, it's mostly just kind of learning some more PHP commands. There's no real sophisticated things like in object-oriented programming to learn. We're just going to learn some more. These two, of course, are MySQL, query, attributes. These down here are PHP commands, and they're the things that are explained in Chapter 9. So I think the easiest way to do this is just to go straight to the examples. If I can find the examples. So let's first look at the Risky Jobs example. This is the example out of the book. It's a 2-file application. It basically has a search HTML file and a search.php file that gets the results of this. You can put in words to search for, and hit submit, and it'll display all the records that it found in the database with that in it. So we can get a little more sophisticated and find more things. So it'll display up to 4, 5 records at a time. It has, sometimes people will put in commas to kind of say, I'm just searching for these things. So it'll still work if you put commas in between the words. Once you get here, you've got a couple attributes on the page. It says displaying 5 at a time. You're going to need 3 pages to do that. You can jump to the 3rd page and see what the last one is, or you can hit the arrow key and go back 1 page. So now I'm on page 2. You can sort the fields by clicking on the top, the column header. That's kind of typical behavior. There's a bug that the example script has that we'll try to figure out as we go through the code. I clicked on job and it put airplane first, so that looks like it that worked. I can click on state and it put Arizona first, so I guess that's working. If I click on state again, it puts Texas, so I think it will go ascending or descending depending on how many times you click on it. If I click on date posted, nothing seemed to happen. I click on job title and then I go to date posted, then something seemed to happen. So it seems to have a bug in it, that if you if you sort by state and then you go to date posted, the sort doesn't work. So we'll try to find that bug. Thank them for putting that in there. Notice how it's pretty simple application. It's using a get parameter to do all this. So if I put is in here, it says user search equal is, and it's putting some other information on it for the PHP script. If I put in comma airplane, I hit submit, user search is it HTML5'd the comma and puts airplane in as well. So that's getting passed into the PHP script. One other thing, when you do the sort, if I click on state, it looks like it adds here a sort equal 3. So when you sort by 3, it puts a sort equal 3 on the top, so it kind of knows what sort it's using. Or if you click on job title, it puts sort equals 1, or if you put on date posted, it says sort equals 5. It doesn't allow you to sort on description. That's okay. So, simple application, but pretty sophisticated in just doing all that.
Can you try the error path and see if that sort parameter is passed correctly?
The error path, okay. So if I clicked on state 3, or sort on state, so I did the sort by state, and it says sort equal 3. Then I click on date posted. Nope. Didn't change it. So we now have a clue as to what our problem is. Something's leaving this as 3, where if I go from job title to date posted, sort is equal to 5. So something's going here. Type of 4 up here. You are evil. What did it do? It almost looks like
It reverses it.
I know it goes from 1 to 6.
goes from
3 states, it goes from 1 to 6.
Yeah.
1, 3, and 5 are ascending, or
that's right.
and the other are the opposite.
Notice, what these guys are saying. If you go 5 and then you click on 5 again, this is the ascending one. 6 is the descending. So if you click on state, which is 3, then descending state is 4. So I think if I just put a 3 right here, it's going to sort by state ascending. So it just did it. Okay. So just by the way, this is what I want your applications to do. This is your assignment for next week.
You just make up something new to be a Google search, or
Put it in your current page.
Just sort our columns and tables.
That's all I wanted to do, is sort your columns and your tables and be able to search.
set mine up like that.
See, that's a problem with
They're like,
Well, it's a problem with adding on to.
We're searching our own
You
data.
keep adding on to the same thing. Stephen, if that's a real problem with your application, then just create a page that I can get to. You can access the same data and do a simple table and put this functionality into it.
We want to search our own table database.
Yeah.
I just want to make an editorial comment concerning the pagination on this thing.
Yeah.
When I was, I ran into this pagination code when I was working. Always was, to me, over complicated and confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was forced to, I just made my own way of doing it, in a sense.
Yeah.
And by using some JavaScript and CSS, you can basically just download the whole file onto the page. Okay?
Yeah.
And then where you just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the next bit is hidden. And so then you just keep changing them to be display, block, or display, none.
It's probably very fast that way too.
It's much faster, and it also, there's no traffic.
Mm-hmm.
You make one call, that was it.
Basically, you're using a Java. Let me repeat what Stephen said. He says there's a whole other way to do this that is not server-based with JavaScript, where you basically download the whole file, and then you let the JavaScript display the parts of the file that the user chooses to display. Now, the advantages of that are it can be really fast because all the data is there in the browser when he wants to do it. The disadvantage of that is if you're working with a database of 100,000 entries.
But you're never going to search for them. You're not going to search for all.
Well, the guy puts in a blank.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, and he happens to get his 100,000. You know.
that page is fun.
Yeah. Okay, Stephen has just shown his true colors there. You don't like this? You make a mistake on my application, I'm going to hit you on the side of the head.
You could also prevent that. Because blank, you just, maybe she doesn't search.
Sure, you could. Or if you could just limit that the maximum number of records you're going to send down regardless is a certain number, but even that's a little confusing. Because maybe he asked for 100,000 records, and he just wants to page through, or he asked for something 200 records, and even that could be a lot of data in some applications. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just be aware. You have to be aware. On big databases, could be a problem. We're doing a PHP class, so we're server-based here.
Is it okay if we use the JavaScript?
No.
I thought it was PHP is for web pages. No extent. But back then, you do use JavaScript.
Okay. So if you use all these functions that we talk about right here, then yeah, you can use JavaScript. My only point is we're trying to learn JavaScript, and you're
already.
What?
You're trying to learn PHP.
Excuse me. We're trying to learn PHP. Thank you. I'm all confused now. And so I'd rather have you do it in PHP so that I can see it working in PHP. See that you know the PHP concept. Because I think you might want to use it sometime. So the search.php. Let's just do an overview of it real quick. Starts out with some HTML. This is going to be the top of the page. Nothing too big there. Starts the PHP block and starts doing some functions. First one off is called build query. This one, what kind of query is it going to build? This function builds a search query for the search keywords on this and the sort setting. Okay, good. So I know what that does. If I go down a little bit farther, here's generate sort links. This function builds the heading link. So this is going to, so it basically builds the heading and puts in the links to be able to sort the columns in it. So that's what this function does. It ends right there. Then we've got to generate page links. So this function is going to generate the HTML that does that little block of page numbers and things in the lower left-hand corner you saw on the page. All these are not that long, about a page long on this screen. So that doesn't seem too complex. So here we're getting down into the actual page code. So he first gets the sort value out of the get string and the user search value out of the get string. He checks to make sure if the page is set in the get string. If it's not, so here's a one-line if statement. So have you guys seen this before? Is set, so that's a conditional. Page set. If it is set, then get it. Then the value of this line is going to be the actual page number that's out of the get. Otherwise, it's going to be 1. So that's the syntax of that line. I'm not sure if we've seen that yet.
There's a special name for that. Can't remember what it is.
Tertiary?
The next sort type?
This one is a tertiary condition?
Tertiary operator.
Tertiary operator?
Ternary.
Ternary. Anyway, the operator is actually this guy right here. The question mark says, yeah, it's the syntax that says condition goes before the question mark. It's an if-else shortcut. Yeah, exactly. So the value of this whole line is either going to be this value or that value, and it depends on this condition. And if this is true, it'll be the first thing before the colon. If it's false, it'll be the second thing after the colon. So it's a one-line if statement. Now the results per page are 5. It's going to set that to 5. Then he does a calculation for this thing called skip. So current page minus 1 times the results per page. So this thing called skip is going to be the kind of the number of records he needs to skip to get to the page that he wants to be on. So it starts building a table, just echoes that out, starts a heading row, ends a heading row, and in between he calls this function generate sort links. So that's just going to generate, so that function generates all the HTML needed for that row to put in the heading with the links all correct. Now he has to pass the search value and the sort to it. So we'll go back and look at that function in a minute. So he does that, but he has to do that. So he gets his connection variables, he connects to the database, then he builds the query. So that was the other function we went by, using the search and the sort, and then he executes the query, and then he finds out how many rows were returned. And he gets something, num pages is the ceiling of total, the number of rows returned divided by the results per page. Okay, so it says the results per page are 5. I said that was hard-coded up here, it's 5. You could have put just 5 here, but you left it as a variable. You could actually put a little field on your form if you wanted to and vary the length of your page if you wanted. Then he looks at how many rows were returned, and he just does the division. So if you get 10 rows returned from your query, and it's 5 per page, it's 10 divided by 5, and you get 2. So you got 2 pages. But what happens if it doesn't divide equally? What do you want it to do? You don't want it to leave any off. So you use a ceil function. And the ceil function is ceiling, means round up. So if you've got 12 rows returned, you divide by 5, and the ceiling function says, give me the next whole integer greater than that. So instead of returning 2 2/5, it returns 3. Okay, that's what the ceiling does for you. So you're going to end up with the number of pages rounded up. So now we're going to do our query, and add to it a limit. Skip, comma, and results per page. So skip again was how many records we need to skip before we start returning records, and then how many that we're going to return. So this limit functionality has the ability to not only limit the number of rows returned, but it also skips forward through the number of rows by giving it this number comma number syntax. So it's only going to return 5 rows, and it's going to skip forward this number of rows in your database. Execute the query, and build each row. And then at the very end, if the number of pages is greater than 1, so we've got more than one page that could be generated, we go ahead and generate the links on the bottom of the page. This part does. Close our database. Okay, there's something I skipped over here. Oh, I didn't skip over it. It's in these functions. So let's go back to the top and look at some of the functions, how they work. Now that we know how they're used. So here's the generate the query. Extract the search keywords into an array. So they're taking into a couple different things into account in this code. One of them is that people can put in commas, and he's just going to take those out. And they can put in multiple spaces between words, and we've got to account for that as well. So how does he do that? So we've got these variable called clean search. He's going to do a string replace of all commas with a space in what the user entered. So we're learning another PHP functions, string replace. He's just going to take out all of the commas and replace them with spaces. So if I put in is a if I put in is airplane, it's good. What it's going to do is going to take that comma and just replace it with a space. But you could also enter is comma space airplane. Let's see what it does with that. Okay, so we've got clean search words. We're now going to do another PHP function called explode, which basically takes this delimiter and creates an array of strings out of this thing called clean search. And every time it hits a space, it's going to create another entry in that array. Now, this might cause a problem.
You just use split with a space character.
I don't think there's any difference that I can think of. The string has it's kind of a C++. I think of it from C++ or C#. An object, a string object, can have a split function on the end of it. You say this stop split, and and you give it to, you know, a character that you want to split this string apart, and it returns a set of arrays. So it's just another way to do the same thing. I think they're using this because they want to use an implode down here, and it kind of mirrors it.
That's a join.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than it. Well, is it? Does join do this? Put the or in between everything? Okay. So there's another way to do the same.
Same term as for JavaScript.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
doing syntax. Just they say seal has got a roundup. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't use word to that.
Yeah. Although seal, I've seen it both ways in different languages. Okay, so we're down here in our search words. We've got it. We've exploded it into an array. So search words is now an array. We create an array, an empty array, out of final search words. Then we go through and account here. It says if we've got more than one thing in our search words array, then for each word in search words, if it's not empty, add it to this guy. So he's creating a final search words that has all the spaces removed, and does the split handle multiple? If you have two spaces in a row, does it make two things out of that? There might be a.
Yeah.
I think it does.
That's an empty.
Yeah, it puts an empty entry in it. So this gets rid of the empty entries. It seems like there ought to be an easier way, some function to do that for you, but they've actually coded a little loop to do it. Okay, so we generate the where clause. Okay, so the where can be where it's like, and now it's searching description to make sure these words are in it. And when you say like, it doesn't have to be exact. And these little guys right here, percent signs, is a little bit like putting stars in the syntax. So beginning with anything, ending with anything, but it's got to have this word that I'm sticking in from the search words in between. So it's basically going to find any record with any of the words that the user puts in. Now the reason it's going to be any is because he's going to OR all these clauses together. So he uses another function called implode. So he's created this where list. Where list is going to have all of these, the string, description, like, and then some word, that the user entered, and it's going to have some number of those. Now he needs to OR them all together. So the easy way to do that is with this implode. And guys know JavaScript, say you can do a join as well. So now we have our where clause, and we just attach it to our query string. Okay, now we have to understand how to sort it. So here's all of our different sorting numbers that we could have at the top. So if the sort was a 1, then we're going to put order by title. If it's a 2, we're going to say order by title descending, as opposed to the default, which is ascending, and on down. So this is an example of a switch statement. So I have a lot of different things to do depending on this variable, and this is the value of that variable. And each one of these cases says, well, if that variable is a 1, then do this. Otherwise, do this. Otherwise, if it's a 3, do this. So it's on down. It's like a if-then-else, a long if-then-else. You could code it up as a long if-then-else. A common mistake in switch statements is to leave out that break. I don't know what PHP does because I haven't tried it yet, but some programming languages will give you a warning.
Those that just drop through.
Well,
PHP doesn't give you a warning.
PHP doesn't give you a warning.
I left them on.
Most languages that just drop through in this case.
Which is a positive and a negative. Okay, so if you intend it to go to the next case, that's great. Okay, it's an easy way to say, well, if it's a 3, I want to do this code, and I want to do the codes for 4 as well. And you just leave the break off, and it'll just fall through and do the code for both 3 and 4. But
check to make sure that 4 was part of that
nope.
sort variable.
Nope. It kind of says 3 is good, but but I see no break, so I'm continuing down. It's going to continue down and execute all of these cases
Ignore all the cases.
Until it hits a break.
until it hits a break. The break says, I'm done with this case. Whatever case I started with, it could have been 2 up here, and you got way down to 5 and got your first break.
That allows you to do multiple cases. So if you have case 1, 7, 9, and 15, you can put those all in one spot and not have to do each one. One response for all 4 of those.
Yeah. So you'll often see things like this. You'll see case 2 right here with nothing in between, which is basically saying, for case 2 and 3, I want to do this code. Now, I would remove this. This would go away. For this example, I'm just saying, in the case statement, you can say both of those cases, and then all it is an extension of this falling through feature. But all I was saying is that if you leave the break off, it's a heck of a bug, and you didn't intend it, it's a heck of a bug to find sometimes. So just be careful with it. Now, in a lot of cases, you'll want a catch-all clause at the bottom that says, hey, if it's none of these, do this. In this case, because we're setting the sorting case, we know it's going to be a 1 through 6 regardless. Okay. I don't think we found our bug yet. So this was, again, building the query that's going to do the search of the database. And this function is going to generate the sort links. So this is going to be the header at the top of the screen, going to create those header links. So here's all of the links here. So it says if I'm in sort case 1 right now, which is the far left column, I want my header to look like this. So if let me scroll over here a little bit. So job title, it's going to append this 2 to the sort, to the get string. State's going to append the 3, and dates posted is going to append a 5. Here, if I scroll over here, if we're in 3, so that's the case where that was the state, if I remember right. Then I'm going to append a 1, excuse me, a 4 or a 3. 3. Did we find our bug?
Probably.
I
And
haven't got the logic of that yet.
okay, so let's go back to this guy again. So right now there's no sort. If I click on job, so it says sort equals 1. So what's highlighted here? Okay, the job title, if you click on it, you can actually see the, I can't move my mouse down there, but if you look in the lower left corner, you can see the link it's going to create. Okay, it's going to be sort equals 2 on the end. And can't sort that, but state's going to be sort equal 3 on the end. And date posted is going to be sort equal 5 on the end. So that's...
If you're sorting on the job title, or you're also sorting the date and date?
No, you're just sorting on the job title. But what's going to happen is when I have it sorted by the job title, that's sort equal 1, the link here is job title is going to, if I click on job title, it's going to put sort equals 2, which is sorting on job title as well, but it's going to be descending instead of ascending. Okay, if I click on state, it's going to be state, but it's going to be ascending. And if I click on sort date, it's going to be 5, and 5 is going to be that's the ascending.
And go over state and date posted. See if it keeps those numbers.
So there's state, sort equals 3,
3 and 5.
and that's 2. So if I click on state, okay, we're just going to get that 3 at the top. So it did that.
Right.
Put the 3 on the top, and that cost it to sort.
The job title right now, so
Say 1.
run over that. And it's back to 1.
It's back to 1, because if you click on the idea is when you click on it the first time, you're going to get ascending.
Right.
You click on job title and you're sorted by job title already, you're going to get descending.
So date should show 5 at the bottom now.
So if I go over here, date should show 5 at the bottom now.
This is 3.
It says 3, which is really state ascending. Let's look at the code again. So this is a case where it's 3. The sort is 3. So let's look at the code here. So the case is sort equals 3. If I go over here where I can see it, it's putting in a 3 there and not a 5 for date posted. That's the bug.
Oh, I think it's supposed to be 6, actually. I don't know.
Well, the only time it's supposed to be 6,
If you're already in 5.
yeah, so if you're already in 5, you'll get a 6, because 5 is sorting date. And if you click on date again, you want to get date descending. And that's what 6 does. But notice when you're in case 1, when you're sorting the first column, it puts a 5 over here for date. If you're,
Case 1
yeah.
for the first line, it's a 2.
Right.
It becomes a 1, then it's a 1 again, and then it's a 1 again, stays a 1.
So if you click on, where am I? So, wait a minute. So here I've sorted it by, the first one by job title, so it's ascending job title, and it's sort equals 1, which just makes sense. If I click on it again, it's sort equals 2, it's now doing descending job title, but if I click on it again, it's going to go back to 1. Does that sound right?
From that standpoint, but it seems like the other ones are getting mixed up.
Well, if I click on state, it goes to 4. Or excuse me, that's sort equals 3, but the next state it's going to go to, or sort, it's going to be a 4 at the bottom there. So I click on it again, it does state in the reverse order, descending. Kind of toggles back and forth. But the issue is this guy right here. When I'm in this case 5, oops, sorry, that one's okay. When I'm in case 3, it's putting a 3 here instead of a 5. So the right answer is a 5. Okay.
And 2, 4, and 6 always go back to the same thing, and it does it with the default.
Yeah. 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so generate page links is pretty straight.
It's pretty tricky.
Pretty tricky. It's only a page with a quote. Generate page links. So it's passed in the search, the sort, the current page, and the number of pages. So the first thing it does, I like the way they've commented things here. If this page is not the first page, generate the previous link. Okay, so that's that arrow. That's the previous link. In this case, it is the first page. So you need
It's not
that.
a link, it's just text.
Well, it's text, but it's a link. Because notice where you're going to go.
Only if you're on a page other than that.
Right. So if you're on page 1, it's just text. It's not a link. You could make it go away, or you could dehighlight it. It's a little bit, I don't know.
But you want
I like it there.
You want them to hold their relative position on the page too, so it's hard to make spaces match the characters
Right.
in some fonts, right?
Yeah, if you were to make it go away, this thing would jump back and forth as you went to page 2 and. Well, okay.
Or you could also just put it in state.
That would be the other way to do it, yeah. This is the typical way to do it. So this code is basically saying, is it going to be a link, or is it just going to be text, if we're on page 1. Then the next one says, loop through the pages generating page numbers. So we have to create one of those numbers at the bottom for each page that we're going to generate in it. And the current, notice the current page is just text, and it's not a link. It's basically what it does here. If you're on page 2, it's just text, and you can't go to page 2 because you're already there. And the last chunk says if the current page is less than the number of pages. It does the same thing for the right arrow as it did for the left arrow. Makes it a spacer now. Grab the sort settings. Get the user search. Okay, so this is we're out of that function already. We're back into the regular page. So that this generate page links is that much of code. So when you this is to me this is a good example where you know, something that's fairly sophisticated and can be pretty complicated. You know, they broke it down, and it's not that bad once you break it down. Now, in this example, for your assignment, you've got a lot of code right here just to do what it is. So you have to make it work in your applications. But you got most of the code you need right here in the example. So any quick?
We're going to have to add an awful lot of people to our
or you're going to have to make the pagination very short. Well, they only made it 5. I mean, you have to add a couple more.
But search on 10 people and you can just be looking at all 10.
So one added opportunity for your assignment is so you add a box that allows the user to search your database and display only those records found. Have it search at least 2 columns. The reason I said that is because our database doesn't have this big long piece of text that's very interesting to search. Okay, but it's easy enough to have it search 2 columns and not just 1. And it makes it a little bit more sophisticated than this example. So you can have it search the first name and the last name field because they're separate fields, or have it search whatever you want. No, one input box, but have it search 2 different columns in your database. Comma? Okay. And add the ability for the user to click on the column headings and sort the records.
And have you figured any logic out as far as the search and multiple columns goes?
Have I figured it?
In other words, it's kind of thought over in your head because,
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Basically, what I would like it to do is if the person puts in Terry, okay, and searches for it, and let's say you're going to search the first name and the last name, make it an or, search both of those, and display the record if either the first name has Terry in it or the last name has Terry in it. So you'd just have a where clause.
that's a simple one.
With-
Put it in multiple words.
Then you'd have to replicate you've got a pairs of them you're going to have to replicate.
I more or less think it's starting to separate the words out and figuring out what columns that they would actually have to use for.
So you would look at Terry and say,
I only say that because I know this is one search thing. I didn't write it, but I actually worked with it.
yeah.
It was, states and cities, and they were putting them as one, and so the whole deal was you had to figure out did they write the state in first or the city, and was they trying to match up these properties.
Yeah,
It's super complicated.
the where will be a little bit longer, but it won't be complicated in my case. It's just take the words that they enter, search, just OR them all together, so that if I put in Terry, you'll find it in whatever columns you're searching. Somehow indicate what columns you're searching. Okay. Any questions about the assignment? where name 1 equal Terry or name 2 equal Terry. Yeah. Usually it's name, first name and last name in most of the databases I've seen, but that's basically the idea. And if I put in 2 words, if I said Terry Haynes with a space in between, you would have to say where name 1 equals Terry or name 2 equals Terry or name 1 equals Haynes or name 2 equal Haynes. MySQL doesn't care how long it gets.
If you put in 3, kind of all goes down.
No, just adds it on. Any more questions? Easy week, don't you think? Oh, come on.
Given that it's all coded out for us.
Yeah, it's all coded out for you. Again, if it, for most of the databases I've seen, I don't know the insides of all your applications and your JavaScripts and those issues you have, but most of them from the surface, most of this will fit in just fine.
Part of it has to do how the layout is.
Yeah.
So this is designed on basically table, tabular display.
Well, what is yours? Yours looks like a table.
Oh, but it's made out of computers.
Is it? Okay.
And then the newest one really is, I'll say, with name and taking names and layout. There's the photos over here.
Okay.
It's where you can't, it doesn't fit under the column.
Okay.
So I'll come up with another.
So if you want to come up with another page, that's fine.
As far as sorting goes, I would take the approach of up and down arrows.
That's probably more explicit. I mean, their example here.
Sounds to me like it's easier to run coding.
So you would put an up or down arrow here, and they would get ascending or descending.
Yeah, by clicking on which one of the arrows.
Okay, that's okay with
But
me.
you have to keep track of, where they're trying to keep track of numbers on all this stuff.
Well, you still have to keep track of which column is being sorted on.
Right.
But you don't have
Notice
to.
they repeated it 4 times, and then.
They kind of doubled the number of times, sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can have 2 arrows on each column, then.
All it is just a link. You just take this column and sort you go ascending and descending. I could be wrong. This is the first thing that comes to my mind.
That was like, possibly take the risk to do that. Simple.
I would think so. But it could be one of these things that you think it's simple, then you start doing it and say, oh, what have I got myself into?
My thought when I saw that is you can only sort on one column. You can't do multiple column sorts, like priority sorts.
First on this column, then on that column, then on that.
Like you might want to sort on job title and then by state or something, get all the jobs that are in the same state.
Yeah.
That is doing
Well, if
sorting
you
on all job titles, or you can sort on all states, but then you might want to sort on.
you may want to know all the airplane engineers in Texas.
Right.
You know.
500 pages, not so bad.
But they got to set up to deliver that.
Yeah. How would you? I don't know how you do the GUI for that.
What, for multiple?
For multiple.
We have that too. I guess, in other words, I want to find this in this state.
Well, he's not saying find, he's saying sort. I want to sort first by this and then by this. So that, you could do that by just order of clicks. So if I click on...
I've never run across a page that was anything different than this.
Well, that's true. I've never seen that either. It's probably a little bit hard to indicate what the heck's going on, too. Maybe you can come up with some fancy way to indicate how it, what it's doing. It's a new challenge.
Well, you can sort by state, and at the same time you're ordering by job title. That would then all lump all the same job titles together.
So what you're saying is if the person clicks on state, you just hard code that it's always going to sort by job title?
So it would be state and job title. So it's the MySQL sorts by state and then the secondary order by.
Yeah, we're saying that. Yeah, certainly MySQL can do it. We're just discussing how you get it to do it, how you indicate it on a GUI.
Why do you want to?
Why would you want to do it? Well, what's it?
Sort by the state.
What if you want to?
Shouldn't it be automatic?
Yeah. Practical example for our case, you might want to sort by last name, then first name, or first name, then by last name.
Yeah, there's a good example. In your little database, you may want to search by last name, then first name, or first name, then last name.
So it would be control click, right? Control click is the way you do multiple things at a time.
Yeah.
But you'd have to do the sequence too.
Yeah, you'd have to understand which was done first.
Behind.
Yeah.
Well, control it too.
Just selects multiple things on the page.
Oh, just like a, yeah, I don't see how most of those regular things go button.
Yeah, go buttons. Oh, you can get clunky. Have a little sort pull down that says 1, 2, and 3, on each column, and then say go, or maybe you wouldn't have to say go necessarily in that case. You just had a little pull down on each column that said this one's number 1, this one's number 2, this one's number 3. If you did another number 1, it would erase the rest of them, and that would be one way to do it. I'm not asking for that. Sounds like good extra credit, though.
As a practical exercise, when you get the original result on this first time, for your customer, wouldn't it be advantageous, let's say, to list of state order and date posted, and then job title for the best of the team? And follow that example through.
Yeah, I can't see any order that it is right now. What does the code do? Probably doesn't do anything. So this is what builds a query if the sort Oh, so what does it do? It does not put an order on.
But it's just outputting the database.
Yeah.
Originally, it's just outputting the database for the first in.
Yeah. So what I was saying, what's your default action if sort is not set? It just doesn't add the order by to the query, and so it's not ordering. It's not ordering at all. So yeah, it'd be easy to put a default order by down here. So if they didn't put a sort on it, they haven't clicked any of the column headings, you would have a standard sort that makes more sense. Yeah. Yep, that makes more sense than
Descending date from last name, first out.
Yeah, usually on a job database, you want to see the most recent postings. Yeah, it gets to be questioning what's the right thing to do in that case, because maybe they want to, maybe you could make an argument that you want to see the most recent ones, regardless of what state. But you can also make the argument you want to see them by state, because I only have certain states I want to move to. So sometimes it's hard to default things the best way. Okay, any other questions? Let's see, will the World Series be on next time? Seems like it.
Starts Wednesday.
Starts Wednesday?
The schedule will be on Wednesday. I don't know what
Yeah,
So-
it will be.
It will be, yeah.
They go for that, so.
Yeah, unless somebody wins 4, yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, we'll be still in the,
It'll be in,
yeah,
Detroit.
Detroit. Yeah. Cardinals are still up.
I kind of feel bad for the Cardinals. I mean, they were the ones that got taken advantage of by the Red Sox when they came back from their backs to the wall twice, and then they.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this is not the first time? Oh, gee. Looks like they're getting blanked, too. Gee, that's got to be tough.
That hurts.
Well, I heard somebody was saying that when the San Francisco won the first one,
Game 5.
yeah, Game 5, it was going to be pretty hard. Even though San Francisco was still down 2-3, it was going to be pretty hard for the Cardinals, just looking at their pitching staff. Anyway. So any other questions about
No question,
work?
but I
Yeah?
have one other little brag.
Yeah?
Do you still have my web?
Sure. I can make it
I
bigger.
forgot to mention this when you were there before.
Let's go to this. Yeah.
Okay, sign up. Notice a little captcha thing.
Yeah, we're actually going to get to that, guys. He's ahead of us. So I want to sign in as,
Well, just hit continues, just so you can see what the error says.
so this is, how you typically see this on websites where you have to enter something so that,
You can never read it.
so it's not machine readable. His are actually more readable than a lot of them I see on real websites.
Yeah. Well, I tried to make it a little more user-friendly.
Yeah.
How did you write your own?
I took the one in the book and I modified it. The one in the book, they don't alter the position of the characters. I rotate them and I also change their vertical height randomly.
You using JavaScript to do that?
No, it's PHP.
Oh, you do.
It's in the book. So,
We just haven't got there yet. Yeah. We're going to do graphics. Yeah, that's cool.
The one in the book wouldn't work for this because what happens is you generate the phrase, but the one in the book, you generate the phrase every time that image is created. And it's created every time the page gets posted. So here you are on the form, it's generated a phrase. You type it in, you hit continue, and it goes to regenerate the page, and it's changed the value by the time you check it.
Oh, really?
So
they have a
I
built-in
modified
bug.
it so that I only let it generate when I want it to.
Okay. Okay. Things to look forward to. Okay. Okay. I'm done, unless somebody has some more questions. Okay. Sure.
when we have problems with it.
Sure. What number are you?
84 or 83. Go down to the bottom, pick up the one, register and manage profile. This is when we're having a problem in it. Right? We had an example that maybe we can figure out why. Type in, instead of index up there, type in edit, hyphen contact. Or underscore. This will give us a bunch of errors. Go ahead. Now the one that's amazing to understand is this one that says warning. And then it says the first error is that the information in line 16 got outputted.
Cannot modify header information. Headers already sent by output started at yada 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 line 16 in.
Okay, and that's the bracket PHP question mark. Remember that sequence. That's what it's complaining about. Because that's all it's on line 16.
Let me stop recording things. Okay, I think we're done, folks. Thanks. See ya.
It doesn't take much to get it to